There we have it. South Africa end for 201 runs, all 10 wickets taken. And I really like this score, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Let's just have a glance at the scorecard real quick. Lizelle Lee and Laura Boulevard opened the innings, and they did deliver. They had a 79-run partnership. One of them got to 50, one almost made it there. But then we really had a middle order collapse, to the credit of the Pakistani bowlers. Umaima Sohail also coming almost out of syllabus, as some people would say, to take Sinelli's wicket. And then towards the back end, we have Tusha Chetty playing that experienced knock, nudging the ball around, getting a few boundaries on the bad balls as well. But I'll tell you why I really like the score of 201 for 10, because Mark predicted all 10 wickets to be taken. That's happened. Ananya said around 200, 210. That's happened. And Claire expected a firecracker start with the openers. And that's happened as well. So before we dive right into it, just your opening thoughts, Claire. Why don't you take it away?
Well, I think as a panel, we did reasonably well with our predictions up front. All jokes aside, I think it was well done to Pakistan. South Africa, with that start that they got, they should have probably got easily up to 250. I think within the dressing room, they'll be a little bit disappointed that they kind of let the innings sort of really sort of sizzle out into nothing. And I would have expected that they would have addressed this exact situation. I mean, Hilton would have seen this coming. I'm sure they would have prepped the girls, spoken about it, and just kind of said, guys, let's not panic about things. Let's just sort of consolidate, let's work together as a team. And even if it's just sort of pushing the ball around and picking up singles. So, a little bit disappointed from the South African side. Glad to see that Lizelle Lee did very, very well. Unfortunately, not getting her half century. Laura Boulevard, fine niche with all the potential and just the form she's shown throughout the series. She got her half century. A bit unlucky to get strangled down the leg side and getting caught behind. But I must be honest, I thought Pakistan showed a lot of character and they did really, really well to sort of cause that collapse and then carry on. I think they must have been a bit worried in the beginning. Mark, I'm sure you're not very happy from a coach's perspective with their drop catches now in this innings. Laura, I think I made a note, was caught on 2 and she went on to score 58. Lee also dropped on 6, went on to score 49. Can you imagine if you take those 2 scores out of the innings, where South Africa could potentially have been in this game?
Yeah, Mark, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it was disappointing to see 2 drops in 2 balls, especially considering the power of hitting of the openers.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, I think Sidra Nawaz had one of her most disappointing days behind the stumps. She's missed a couple of stumpings there, and she missed an early catch, so that's not a great day for her. But yeah, they would be disappointed. It seems like these drop catches have spread. Alia Riaz dropped a couple of catches, caught a good one, dropped a couple. I think Pakistan probably dropped 5 catches in all. So that's not a great day for them. And it's the old saying, as we all know, it's the cliche, catches win matches. I hope this doesn't affect the outcome of the game. But I think what it did do, and I'm sure that the rest of the Anya and yourself and Claire will be very interested, when you take away those good players, there is a big gap between the good players and the next players coming through. And I think that with the exception probably of Australia, England a little bit and India are going okay as well. But the rest of the teams, when you take out 2 or 3 good players, and the same with Pakistan, if you take out Khan, Dar and Bismar Maroof, the next lot coming through look really at sea. And for me, that's a massive concern for all these countries, that they need to get their A programs in place extra quick, because those Brits and Bosch really didn't look like they had too much clues about what was going to go on when the pressure was on. So it's a massive concern for female cricket that the rest of the countries need to get their programs up to date very quickly, because the drop away is significant.
Yeah, Australia is the benchmark for that in terms of grassroots development and the academies as well, because when they come out to the national stage, they're ready to go. And Ananya, team pacer, as you always say, Diana Baig had a game and a half. She put her body on the line almost on every ball. Just some thoughts on her and her spell.
Well, I think we've seen through the entire series that Diana Baig has been a standout for Pakistan with the ball. She's led the attack and really reveled in that role of leader of the attack. I think she's given them a very good start in all the games. And even though she didn't get a wicket today in her first spell or in the previous game, I think she was still able to control that power play, at least at her end. I thought she bowled quite well with the new ball. But then, of course, when her team really needed those wickets, she came in. She was lucky to get Laura Woolward strangled down the leg side. But I think she kind of she gives Pakistan a lot of energy, whether it's in the field or whether she's bowling. I think that when Diana Baig is in action, I think you feel like they're up for it. They're willing to take on the challenge, and she's been exceptional through the series. I mean, the highest wicket taker. I don't see anyone crossing her. So. I mean, hopefully she's given them something that they can chase down. She's helped restrict South Africa to a total that's chaseable, and hopefully they back her up with the bat.
Yeah, and she had her career best figures in this match. And, you said a bit of luck to get Laura Woolward out. I truly believe that luck does favor the deserving. I think she put everything on the line. And really, Laura Woolward, I mean, she must be just thinking of Diana as a nemesis. Like, she can't get away from her. Every ODI, she's getting her out some way or the other. But we look at South Africa's batting, Claire, and the 50s, it kept taking more and more balls to make the next 50 and the next 50. What could they have done differently? Was it about strike rotation or just more communication from the senior players telling them that, hey, you don't have to hit out so quickly, just rotate the strike and put pressure on them?
Yeah, look, I had an interesting thought when Annika Bosch came into bat, and I know it will be shot down and probably deservedly so, but just with two like really inexperienced players coming into bat, I thought that maybe they should have put Chetty up just to split them up. It's against where Chetty normally bats and where you would tend to see sort of Bosch and Brits. But I just thought to split them up and have Chetty in the middle. And we addressed it sort of in the pre-match talk, how important Trisha Chetty could be in this innings, and we saw it. She scored a good couple of runs, 34 at the end of the day. And if you'd taken that out as well, South Africa would sort of be struggling to make 100. So I would have liked to see that. Trisha's opened the batting for South Africa before. Trisha used to open the batting for provincial. She's that good of a batsman, so she has the ability to do that. I thought that was one trick that they did miss. And you could just see the panic. So Mark is so 100% correct. It's just the step up, and there was no need to panic. It wasn't like there were demons in the pitch. It wasn't bouncing. It shouldn't have been a sort of a scary thing to go in and face any of those deliveries. It wasn't like you couldn't read what was happening, but it was just that pure like stress, that pure sort of crumble. A couple of wickets went down. That they weren't sure exactly what to do. And it's difficult. You talk about game plans, you talk through the scenarios that can happen, but then when you have to step out to the middle to always execute it, it is a bit tricky. So that one thing I would have done, and just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're only hitting your strike rate sitting at 20% or 30%. The longer you spend time at the crease, the easier it gets. And we say that over and over again, but I think that would have sort of helped South Africa a little bit so that we didn't get into that sort of awkward situation.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be shot down. I think that's a very valid point because we know her experience. I mean, when she came on, we saw her stats on our screen, and stats don't lie really. So that would have been an interesting call to get her up the order to at least manage the newcomers on the field. But Mark, we see sort of South Africa go from 124 for 1 to 132 for 5, immediate collapse. Do you think Pakistan sort of then loosened up a little bit after that, and they could have contained them more, but they kind of moved some people back outside to the boundary?
Well, they get excited, of course, Pakistan, and they think that, once they've got 5 wickets, they've got them all out pretty much. So they do get excited, and then they lose a little bit of perspective as to what's required, and it just needs a calming head to say, right, hang on a sec, there's still 132 for 5. What we don't want them to do is get to 200. And that's what did happen. We want to try and get them, restrict them to 170 all out or 180 all out. So I think probably South Africa got 20 more than they should have. And Chetty played a magnificent role there at the end. And Claire's right in what she said. She should have been batting in the middle with those two inexperienced players. So that's where the Pakistan experience of someone like previously where Sana Mir was there would say, hang fire, still keep your boundary riders out. Let's just make sure that it's as hard as it can be to get to that 200 if that's what they get to. And then, you cannot buy experience. We've seen that in the South African innings where there's been that lack of experience and they've just got to 200. But on the other side of the coin, you've seen a little bit of lack of experience in terms of letting South Africa get to 200. So, I just don't think you can buy that in a team. Experience is the key.
Yeah, and with every game, I think they're going to just increase in that. And every day that goes by, it gets closer to that World Cup, and people are always just trying to get more games under their belt. But what do you reckon the coach is sort of telling the Pakistan squad right now as they sort of pad up and go out to bat? What is the talk in the dressing room?
Well, the facts of the matter are, the one thing that I would say is it's going to get to 200 is going to take between 40 and 45 overs. We're not in a hurry to get this in 30 or 25 overs because it's not, generally speaking, that's not going to happen. But what I would suggest is that they must play within their game plan. So don't go into your shell, Umaima Sahel, if she opens up. Still play like you did the other night and take the attack to them, but understand that we're going to need big partnerships, and someone in that top 4 has to score 80 plus. It's just if you score 80 plus, you'll win this game, and it's that simple. I was disappointed with Lizelle Lee. I'll say it here. I'll say it publicly. I believe that she needs to work on her fitness because I think, and this might be harsh, I think she gets to these 30s and 40s and she almost feels like she's comfortable. She's done it. I've done a job. That'll do. She loses concentration and it just gives the opposition a little bit of an opening. I just feel that she just gets to that comfortable area, and I'm sure Hilton probably thinks those 40s and those 30s, those nasty 30s are just really annoying for him. And that's what Pakistan have got to avoid. Someone has to get 80 plus. You do that, you win the game.
Yeah, Claire, thoughts on Lizelle Lee, not being able to get out of that and convert it into a big score, because there are expectations on her, especially with a few changes down the order. What is she? Mark has sort of touched upon it, but what do you like to add on that?
Yeah, look, I can't disagree with that. I think fitness is one thing. I think just that mental concentration. The shot that she went out to, like literally just holding out to extra cover. Yeah, I don't really have too many words that I could use on air to describe it. I was bitterly disappointed. I was sitting at my desk and I just went, no, she played a perfect innings up until then, and she generally just threw her wicket away. It wasn't a slow ball. It wasn't sort of something that was just back of a length that she just sort of tried to push at. It was just an absolute failure in concentration. And whether that's, I definitely think it is a physical thing of fitness, but also just that mental concentration to keep sort of pushing through and just be able to convert. Because the thing is, it's almost like a waste because she is such a talented batsman. And for her to be going out on these, and I think I can't even remember, but in the second ODI, 40, somewhere around there. But, to keep it getting there, you get in. She should be converting that and carrying her bat all the way through the innings. Or she goes out in the 40th over, but she's got you 100 runs and her strike rate sitting at 100 or 105. You don't mind that situation. So when you're going out on that, between the 40 and the 50, it's almost sinful. And it would be, we can always hindsight an exact science, but it would have been really interesting to see if she'd carried on going through the innings and seen where she would have had accelerated. But as a coach, I think Hilton must be really frustrated and almost not quite sure what to do because, she's a talent and she can bat, and when she bats and she scores runs, it's fantastic for South Africa, and it can be a killer for the opposition. But she just has to do it more regularly and sort of follow through with her innings and the consistency thereof.
Yeah, and we've seen it so often when there are drinks break or an injury break that people just lose their concentration. I think that's what happened. It was the fourth ball after the drinks break, and she played that shot. But let's move on to the second innings coming up. And we've talked about this for like just hours and hours, but Suneli's captaincy. And now we don't have Marzan Cap or Mignon du Preez, who were those leadership presence on the field. Ananya, how do you think that's going to sort of change the way she leads? Maybe she's going to have to take on more responsibility and really, step up with the youngsters around her, going to be looking up to her for directions, for instructions.
I mean, I think, so I thought of this as soon as they announced the 11, and I think this is probably an opportunity for Suneli's to kind of step up and take this opportunity without, the strong personality of someone like Marzan Cap or Mignon du Preez out there. To take up that, to lead the way she wants to, I think, or to send the message that she wants to send, because she doesn't have to worry. Maybe there is Shabnam Ismail and Trisha Chetty, but she doesn't really have to worry about, having to possibly compete for the attention of her players. I think she can go out there and send and speak to them the way she wants to and send the messages that she wants to. And I think she should, hopefully she's seeing this as an opportunity to stamp her mark on this team and possibly the series, because we've seen her be very timid through the series. And I think now that she doesn't have these personalities, she will have to step up. Yes, there is Shabnam Ismail and Trisha Chetty, I think, who are probably going to call the shots when, I'm sure Ismail is going to set her own fields and have a go at the fielders when she's bowling. But otherwise, I think it's Suneli who can potentially take center stage and make her mark on this side.
Yeah, I think stamping authority is absolutely right. And all eyes are going to be on her. I mean, the fact that we're discussing this is because we are aware that she has that added pressure and those eyes on her to set the field well and keep up with everything that a captain is supposed to do. And we look at the South African bowling. Ayawanga Khaka had her best figures in the previous game. Claire, do you see her coming in as one of those strike bowlers because we did see that with the Pacers in Pakistan initially. Fatima Sana, although they were dropped, she was bowling some really good lines and lengths. So do you think alongside Ismail, Khaka is going to be the one to watch?
Absolutely. I just want to pause a bit and just say a few words about Sana, Fatima Sana. I thought she bowled miraculously well today. And I can't say I've ever been a fast bowler, but it must be one of those days where you get into the dressing room and you just sort of say to yourself, well, what else can I do? I thought she hit her lines and lengths superbly well. She had a couple of drop catches off her and all that sort of thing. But she's definitely a talent and one for the future. I think they must keep backing her, helping her to develop as a player. But her figures are definitely not deserving of how well she bowled. She bowled fantastically well. To the South African bowling attack, I think Khaka is going to have to bowl really well. It's so Pakistan are going to back themselves to get this total, and South Africa need to really, really appreciate that and respect that. They sort of lost by 3 runs in the first ODI. They lost by 13 runs in the second ODI, chasing 252. And Pakistan, if they can go out there and be positive, I think it's going to be a really, really good run chase. So Ismail up front is going to be very important, as she always is. Khaka, I think also, but she had a fantastic second ODI. I think if she can just be consistent and not try and force it too much. Sometimes she tries when she's not successful. She tries to force it a little bit. So if she can just stick to her lines and lengths, she could cause a little bit of a problem for Pakistan again. What I'm really excited is to see Masabata Class. I would assume she's going to come in on the first change. So I'm really excited to see her bowl and see what she can do. And then let's not forget Annika Bosch. So she's quite a useful right arm, sort of medium pace. I wouldn't quite put her up in the fast division, but sort of a medium pace bowler. So there's sort of two newies on the scene, and I think it's going to be really exciting to see how they sort of come into their own, because I do think South Africa are going to have to restrict Pakistan here and really take wickets throughout the innings. If Pakistan get away from them, Pakistan, it's going to create that positivity and that attitude and the belief that they can get this total.
Yeah, and Mark, you mentioned Pakistan winning by 6 wickets. So I'm going to take you up on that and ask you, how is the top order really going to deal with the South African attack? And we've spoken about it. It's just like sticking to your process. And we've got some few change-ups. So it's going to be a new opportunity for some people, maybe a shift around in positions for others. How are they going to capitalize on this? Because as you mentioned, the scoreboard is going to play a factor, especially hitting that 200 mark.
Well, look, it's vital that we get off to a much better start than what we have done in the last 2 ODIs. So, and very clearly they've made that change because they feel that they need to get a better start. And I think Umoma Sahel will open up, as we've talked about before. So she's just the type of person that you need to say, play to your game plan. That just play your game, understand that they're going to come at you, the ball's a little bit newer than where you would normally bat. But if you get width, you play your game, and she loves width, so she'll be looking for that. It is a dangerous move because you could lose a playmaker very early, but you've got Javeria there, who you would say is due for what runs. 2 out of 3 she hasn't. And you've got two Indar and Riaz that are in great form as well, and then Kainat will come under a little bit of pressure too, because she hasn't played. So there are a few areas of concern for Pakistan, but Nahida Khan, I think it's time for her to really stamp her authority. She's an experienced player, an experienced opener, and she's one that can, in her little zones and where she plays, she can be very, very effective, but her feet need to move. And if she doesn't have good feet, she's a real LBW candidate, and so or a Nick behind candidate. So she's got a big guy in front of her, Nahida, and she'll know that too. And she's a pretty resilient sort of person, so she'll be up for this challenge. I'm absolutely sure of it.
Mark, just picking up from that, you mentioned, Claire mentioned the changes in the South African bowling lineup. And if you look at that attack, you don't see anyone outside Shabnam Ismail who can really rip through the batting lineup. So how do you think that they should approach this chase? Or how should they look to play out someone like Ismail?
Yeah, look, I think if she bowls 10 overs for none for 30, I think they've done a great job. And then I would suggest that you target some bowlers like this. I haven't seen a lot of the girl Bosch, but I would say that you start to target some of the inexperienced bowlers and go, right, if we can get 45 to 50 off her, we're back in the game. Class hasn't played for a little bit, so she hasn't played 2 of the games. So she's one that you might target because she's a bit rusty. So there are certain bowlers that you'd say, right, let's make sure that we target these girls. We understand that as long as Ismail doesn't take any more than 1 or 2 wickets, you're probably in the win column. And so that will be really important. And as I said, if she can go 10 overs none for 30 or 10 overs 1 for 30, I reckon that's a tick in the box for Pakistan. And then it gives you the ability to be able to attack other bowlers that are a little bit rusty or in for their first game.
Yeah, you mentioned the opening pair and the top order really doing well, because we've seen the middle order and the back end do a lot of heavy lifting. Like I was going through the past scores, and Pakistan was 78 for 5 in the first ODI, 73 for 5 in the second. So we've seen, and they take it up to 197 or 239 in both the ODI. So they have ability at the back, but it's just imagine, like we say, just imagine if the top order does their job. So I think that's going to be a really crucial thing to watch. And I'm really hoping they click. I'm really hoping to see that sort of intense fight, because then it's going to be on. South Africa are going to have the pressure back on them. And it's going to be one match to watch for sure. So before we just conclude, I'm going to ask everyone to predict who's going to win the game. I guess I know Mark's answer, a 6-wicket win for Pakistan. Claire, realistically, on both sides, seeing all the attacks, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to give you 2 answers, a head and a heart answer. My heart will go with South Africa every day of the week. My head says I think Pakistan are going to chase this down. And like in a way, I think also leading into the T20 series, I think it would be a good win for them. It would just change it up and sort of set up the T20 series for a little bit of exciting cricket and give Pakistan that confidence and the belief that they can do something. So I know I'm playing safe, but I had to give you a head and heart answer.
No, and I did watch an Alia Riaz video very recently, and she was saying that I wasn't even looking for a personal score. I was looking to get my team over the line, which didn't happen. And our only aim now is to get that third win, to have a little bit of momentum, a little bit of belief in our team. Ananya, your thoughts on what the second innings is going to bring us?
Well, I think right now I prefer to be in the Pakistan dugout. I think that, I mean, looking at the South African attack, I feel like if they play out Ismail, like Mark said, I think they will be in the driver's seat. So I'm going to back Pakistan to chase this down. Maybe not a 6-wicket win, but yeah, I think it's going to go slightly closer than that, but I think they'll chase it down.
Okay, we're hoping for some really good batting from the top order and good fielding from South Africa towards the end to set up this good clash for the third ODI, the last of the ODI series. This was our mid-innings review of the game so far. Catch the second innings and we'll catch you up after that.
Here we go.
Guys.
This is going to be the longest 200 ever. It's going to feel like 400.